Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Skift India Travel Podcast. Today's guest is from the world of travel and technology. We are thrilled to have Aloke Bajpai, the CEO and co-founder of Ixigo, with us today. Welcome, Aloke.
Thanks for having me on the show, Peden.
Thank you, Aloke. And let's dive right in. Alok, your recent viral post about praising a Decathlon staff member highlighted the importance of treating employees well, right? So, how does Ixigo ensure the retention and growth of its employees, and how does this impact your customer satisfaction?
So, I think one of the uh, key reasons why we are able to deliver the level of customer experience we are able to deliver today is because uh, we have built a culture where each and every Ixigem, as we call them, our employees, uh, actually has a level of ownership and empathy for the customer that transcends doing a regular job, right? And I think um, this cultural trait has been built. If you look at our story, Ixigo's story is very unique. We started out, in a bootstrapped way for the first 5 years. We raised some capital, but we were not, let's say, extremely well capitalized in the early years. And we were very frugal in how we built the company over the first decade, largely relying on product-led growth, uh, organic word-of-mouth led growth, and discovered true product market fit in areas by actually launching unique features and services and serving our customers well. Now, the way the company got built, the kind of attention and time we ended up spending on product experience, user experience, and customer experience across the entire team was disproportionately higher than anything else, right? And even today, I think um, each and every Ixigem, whether they work in product, tech, design, marketing, customer experience, sales, support, um, has a certain level of empathy for every customer issue out there that comes to our notice, right? And we've kind of encouraged that right from the top, and you can see it from the leadership themselves being available on Twitter and LinkedIn and actually responding to customers, uh, right till the point of, like, during COVID, taking some extreme steps like refunding all our customers before we got the money back from some of the suppliers, right? Taking a huge risk on our balance sheet just to make sure our customers get their refunds on time. I think those are some of the things we did over time to also demonstrate how much empathy we have for our customers, right? So I think those actions speak louder than words, or whatever I tell you is actually evident in what all we have done in the last 10 years.
Mhm. Um, Alok, also, there was a recent Videc report that spoke about the fact that the OTA market accounts for only 25% of the Indian travel market.
Mhm.
How do you see this, foresee this market growing in the years to come? And what role does Ixigo plan to, play in this expansion? Of course, you announced this week that you closed your sixth consecutive EBITDA profitable quarter at Ixigo, and the revenue, I think, last quarter has also gone up six times of your pre-COVID levels, right?
That's right. That's right. So I think if you look at India, in the context of where we are in the journey of online travel, right? And obviously, online travel is how commerce online started in India about a decade and a half back with the OTAs, the LCCs, IRCTC, etc. And then players like us and others. I, I think we're still in our infancy as a market in many categories, right? Like, and I can walk through each of the categories just to demonstrate that. If you look at a category like uh, trains or buses, right? Um, even though reserved train travel is penetrated to the extent of more than 80% being booked online, if you look at unreserved, where 20 million people travel every day, most of that, I would say um, close to 96, 97% of that is being done all offline today, right? If you look at buses, again, the penetration is sub 20% in terms of online bus ticketing as a percentage of the overall market. If you look at hotels, right, again, sub 20% penetration. Flights has a higher penetration for sure, 55 to 60%. But again, and that's mostly OTA, 55 to 60%. And then there's some airline direct on top of that. But again, the reason there is that flights has the most evolved and most internet savvy customer base, right? Um, and I think if you look in aggregate, right, across these categories, and then you can layer other categories like intercity cabs and packages and other things where the penetration drops off even more. um, I think in aggregate we come up with that 25% of the overall travel market being transacted through OTAs, right? And so in certain categories that penetration is higher, largely in flights, right? And that penetration may be pretty high today, but in other categories there is still a lot of groundwork to be done to bring the customer online and to build that trust and to build the entire supply, get the right kind of supply online. And a large part of it has to do with how the tier 2, 3, 4 markets, the users from the next billion user category, as we say, or emerging India 2, there are many nomenclatures for that. But essentially, we want those people who come from the middle class, right, to start buying travel online across these categories.
Yeah,
That
but
has
are they already doing it? I think they're already doing it, but it's about getting into deeper into the smaller cities as well, right?
Yeah, so I think if you look at and there was surveys around how the household split in the country is, right. If you look at the
Mm-hmm.
middle class definition of, let's say, a income of 5 lakh to 30 lakh a year, right, approximately 30% of the households in the country fall in that, right, and
Mm-hmm.
they constitute almost 50% of the entire income in the country, almost 48% of the expenditure. Now, that segment, because above that segment is people who are whose propensity it is to actually fly, right? Like, and then you look at the middle class, you look at the aspiring middle class, which is the next segment below that in the pyramid, which is even bigger, which is almost 52% of the households, right? Now, there, those people have not still started spending on leisure. So middle class, I agree with you that, many of those people may already be online. The frequency of travel might not be very high yet, but they are going online to at least check the prices, even if they are booking offline in categories like hotels and packages. We see that behavior as well. um,
Mm-hmm.
but the real unlock for India will come when you go one level deeper. The people who today earn between 1.25 lakhs and 5 lakhs, but who are going to get into this 5 to 30 lakh bracket in the next 10 years, right? I think that's where the real unlock for India will happen, when those people come into the aspirers come into the middle class and start spending more on leisure travel, right? Which today their travel spend is utilitarian. It's largely
Mm-hmm.
spent on going back to where their family is, going to the city where they work,
Mm-hmm.
and so it
But
shows up in.
Alok, these people are also probably already using OTAs, but probably not for air travel. But I think these people would be using for bus and train travel, of course, something that the OTAs have really managed to get into. And now I see a lot of people, because of course booking through IRCTC is a tedious process, so they would rather book it with the IRCTC username and password. They would rather book it through an on OTA. So the opportunity is to like bring them from bus and train to a flight booking, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think if you look at our story, right, and our thesis, so we started looking at the train travel market back in 2013, and it was based on a very simple insight that though there were though there was IRCTC who was offering train bookings online, but there were a multitude of pain areas for train travelers which no one was solving for, and we kind of went in and solved for everything from PNR status prediction to train running status using crowdsourced location of our users to tell where the train is, to solving for where your seat will be on the train, where your coach will be on the train, which platform is it going to come on, and multitude of issues that train travelers face. Now, by solving for those, we were able to build a very large presence on the train side, and over time we then shifted gears to become an OTA, which is a more recent phenomena. Last 5 years we've been selling, last 6 years almost we've been selling train tickets, and then became an OTA on flights thereafter. Now, the reason why we got excited about the category was very simple, that I think most of the OTAs in India were copying the Western template of building for flights and hotels. But the realization dawned upon us that almost 93% of Indians have never stepped inside an airport in their life, right? And for an average Indian, travel means getting on a train and bus and not getting on a flight because they cannot afford one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Either they cannot afford it, or
No matter how low cost the low cost carriers may be, but of course,
yes,
flight travel is still not very affordable for a large part of the population, right?
it is not. And the numbers reflected only 400,000 people take a flight in India every day, whereas 22 million people take a train every day in India, right? Out of which close to 2 million take a reserved train. So even just reserved to flight, there's a 5x difference in the number of passengers you can address. So that realization dawned upon us 10 years ago, and we said, look, if we want to win travel in India, we cannot afford to not win the train traveler, because the same traveler is going to evolve into booking flights the moment there's connectivity, the moment his per capita income improves, the moment the price delta between a train and flight is not very large. And these things are happening, right? So per capita income, the moment it hits a $4,000, $5,000 GDP per capita mark, which is likely to happen by 2030, we will see more discretionary income going into travel, right? It's happened everywhere else in the world, like China and Southeast Asia. Why will it not happen here? And when that happens, that same person will get on a flight with his family or her family, and they will buy a hotel online. And I think what the point I'm making is we are still very early in this market, right? It sounds counterintuitive because OTAs have been around for 15 years, but the market is still 10 years away from where the real unlock for discretionary income flowing into travel is likely to happen. And maybe 10 is a long time. It could be 6 to 7 years when it starts to happen, but it's still that far away.
Yeah, and when it happens, you want to make sure that you are their go-to platform, right?
That's right.
Amadeus makes the experience of travel better for everyone everywhere by inspiring innovation, partnerships, and responsibility to people, places, and planet. Our technology powers the travel and tourism industry, inspiring more open ways of working, more connected ways of thinking, centered around the traveler. Our open platform connects the global travel and hospitality ecosystem, from startups to big industry players and governments too. Together, redesigning the travel of tomorrow. Amadeus, it's how travel works. Visit us to know more, amadeus.com.
In in our recent discussions, Alok, you've mentioned about exploring this potential revenue stream like packages and tours as well. Of course, like you mentioned, from rail, train to flight bookings, hotels, and now packages and tour. Can you elaborate on how Ixigo plans to diversify and what travelers can expect from these offerings?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we're doing is we are partnering with IRCTC to offer rail tourism packages, in our Ixigo Train app and Confirm Ticket apps. We've seen how some of the uh, circuits on those. There's the Indian Railways has a few circuits where they run trains along with itineraries which involve a hotel at certain stops and then
Mhm. Mhm.
sightseeing. Some of these are actually religious circuits. You have the Ayodhya circuit. You have one in South where essentially you have stopovers at certain cities where there's prominent temples or places of pilgrimages. I think we want to expose that inventory also to our own users. So we've tied up with IRCTC to also enable that on our platform soon. And I think on the more evolved user side, at this point, we are experimenting with a few partners to see whether our users actually want more of international packages or domestic packages. I think we're very early in that journey. I don't think we're even started yet in a big way. But definitely, I think the nature of supply that we'll have to build here will be very different from how the first 100 million users look at these products, right? So if I'm actually somebody living in Jhansi but going to Shirdi the first time with my family, uh, it's a very different kind of package I might be thinking about. It could involve a train or a bus. It
Mhm.
could involve a budget hotel or a dharamshala. It could involve just a temple darshan bundled in. And I think the way we need to start thinking about some of these things, especially with the audience that Ixigo has, when we have more than 70 million monthly active users, very large part of that. I mean, if you look at the transactional split, 90% of our transactions have a tier two or tier three leg. And the kind of user, the kind of expectations that traveler has, the kind of inventory that traveler is looking for, the experience that they want to have, and it could be very basic, it could be very value for money seeking sort of inclination, right? And I think building for that is a unique challenge, because just understanding that market, we've been very deep in trying to understand these consumers and um, you know build the right
Mhm.
experience for them. And I think that's where we're still very early in that journey, but as we unpeel the onion, so to say, uh, we will keep building for those deep use cases, which may not necessarily be transactional, even, right? Because if you look at Ixigo, we're probably the only OTA that did not start out on any category within transactional use case, but we were a utility, right? Helping you find where the best flight fares are, and then helping you find where your train is or whether your piano will confirm. On buses side, also initially just helping you find all the bus schedules and routes, right? Over time we became transactional, but the same approach if you apply to categories like uh, packages, tours, hotels, there are enough pain areas to solve for this audience, and we will be definitely spending a lot of time and energy in solving for those broken experiences in their travel booking journey today.
Mhm. Okay, excellent. Alok, when we are talking about diversification, the last time we spoke, you also told me about this independent hotel booking platform that Ixigo is developing. I just needed, an update on that, and how's that faring, and what prompted this strategic move?
Yeah, look, I think given our business became very large on the transportation side, we've crossed 10,000 crores of annualized GTV as we speak, and we, last year crossed 500 crores of revenue. So, we've reached a scale of users as well where you have, 8 to 9 million downloads happening every month, about 70 million plus monthly active users. from that perspective, not offering accommodations ourselves didn't make any sense, right? Because our users
Hmm.
do expect us to be more full stack. And if we are serving close to 8 million passengers every month, a large, significant percentage of those will also look for accommodation, right? Um, so the thought process was simple, that if these people trust us already, if they have our app already, uh, there is no incremental acquisition cost to go and acquire these customers for any new category that we built out. But obviously, we'll have to educate them that we also offer hotels now, etc. Right? So that was the thought process. We've taken some baby steps towards building it. I think, as and when we roll it out fully, we'll make an announcement. But we are also humble enough to understand that this is a category that takes several years to play out and build
Hmm.
in a big way. Involves a lot of deeper on the ground relationships, as well as as I think a deeper sense of customer service post booking. So we are going to ride that learning curve and build it over the next quarters or so. And I think it's still very early to talk about it, to be honest. But we are very excited because, again, like I said, we may end up discovering a very different customer need than what uh, the incumbents already serve, because the nature of our audience, the kind of experience they look for in a hotel, which could be a very basic requirement of a clean room and a clean bed and proximity to a railway station, for example. So I think some of those learnings and nuances will be very different for us. And we are approaching it with a lot of humility, given we're going to be probably the newest OTA on the block when it comes to hotels. So there is still a lot for us to learn.
Yeah, and we'll be glad to find out what you discover from your learnings. Look, Ixigo has been a pioneer in AI with the introduction of, you introduced a chatbot as early as 2017. Now,
Right.
you're also the first Indian tech company with an officially listed plugin on ChatGPT. And of course, now we've been hearing a lot of chatter about AI. How do you see the role of AI among OTAs in India evolving? And what can the users, the end users, expect from this collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, we've been extremely excited about the developments out there when it comes to AI and large language models. And I think if you look at the last 15 years, Ixigo has always been the first to lap up new technology and kind of use it for use cases that change the lives of travelers, whether it was how we started using machine learning back in 2012-13, where we uh, did the PNR status prediction or running status prediction kind of use cases. Those were all data science led. If you look at Ixigo Assured, our full refund guarantee program, which gives you a instant full refund. Again, the pricing of that is dynamic and AI driven. Tara, our AI chatbot, which we built in 2017 and presented at the Focusrite conference, I think, again, built grounds up with our own models. Plan, which is our most recent launch, it's a 3-month old product at this point. I think the excitement for us is that, look, we believe that the current state of development and pace of development on AI has the potential to disrupt a lot of uh, top of the funnel behavior, right, over time. And simply because if you look at problems like trip planning, the complexity of those problems, did not allow them to be solved by any other way in the past, right? I mean, all those rule based approaches of showing you which destinations you might like, etc., based on your prior behavior, I mean, none of those things actually worked. Trip planning is the biggest dead pool in travel globally, with the largest number of startups who've tried. We've also had a first stab at it back at 2012-13 with Ixigo Trip Planner, which was a NLU based, so natural language search. You could type in any large query and get results according to it. But the current state of AI and large language models, which we've used to build plan, and it's a hybrid of existing tools out there as well as our own data and in-house built tools, essentially allows us to make that experience a lot more personalized and a lot more interactive in terms of how you plan the trip with plan. So you could ask for a trip for a destination, and then if you want to add something, remove something, add more information, like if you want to tell it that you're traveling with your kids, or you're traveling with your parents, and therefore something more senior citizen friendly, things where there you don't have to climb much, so you could ask for those things. You could ask for only those hotels which have children playgrounds, or children play areas, etc. I mean, all those things can be done in an interactive manner, and it assimilates that information, uses a feedback loop to kind of improve for the future. And also it's able to do this in an interactive manner, just like a human would do with you while planning your trip. I think uh, for the top of the funnel, this is going to be uh, revolutionary, like I said, and whether our approach works or a tweaked version of that will work, time will tell that. But we've taken a first stab at it, an early stab at it. We are the only travel company from India that we know of that has official ChatGPT plugin, as well as a live use case now for 3 months. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of itineraries being generated by Plan already. And I think it's a very early start. Again, so much to learn. Every week we discover new AI tools and approaches to improve it even further. So, watch this space.
So, ending with a watch this space won't do, Alok. You need to also give me an update about what's happening on the IPO front, because, with the Yatra IPO now out, it launched last month. All eyes are now on Ixigo. And is this the right time for you, or are you still in wait and watch mode?
Well, first of all, like, our congratulations to Dhruv and Manish and the Yatra team for it's the second time they've listed. First time in the US, second time in India. And I think it's always exciting to see companies in your space actually go public and get the kind of reception that they're seeing. I think what is very interesting is that if you look at online travel in India, it's the sector which will have the most public listed companies. It already does, and then there are a couple more which are in the queue, so to say. So I think that's a sign of maturity in the sector. That's a sign of the fact that sustainable large businesses, multiple sustainable large businesses have been built, which are all profitable from what we see at this stage. Who would have predicted that 10 years ago, right?
Correct.
And I think for us, like we've taken a conscious call last year, given where the markets were at, that we will focus on execution for a few more quarters before we look back at the public market. So I think there's clear, at least for this fiscal year, there's a clear focus on just execution, and we will evaluate this next year. At this point, I don't really have a definite answer for this, but if the markets are kind and if we actually keep doing well, it should not be years away.
Okay, so not this fiscal, but perhaps next or the next, right?
I
Thank you so.
I wouldn't know
Yeah.
at this point, but let's see.
Okay. 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 So it is watch this space.
Yes.
Thank you, Alok, for sharing your insights and the developments at Ixigo. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Peden, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Same here. That wraps up another episode of the Skift India Travel Podcast. Stay tuned for more intriguing conversations with industry leaders and innovators. Don't forget to subscribe to us on our favorite listening app. Thank you very much.
This has been the Skift India Travel Podcast.
Thank you for listening.